Hello, everyone. To all the listeners, this is episode 2 of a podcast that hasn't been named yet. We've been messing around with the name a little bit. So far, we have the D&D podcast, which sucks to me. We have Tiki Talk, which is a lot better. Circle Jerk, which was
No, it was Circle Talk.
Circle Talk, excuse me.
Circle Jerk is entirely different.
Yeah, let's not go there.
Different talk.
Different talk. Yeah, so if anyone wants to kind of comment or contact us and give us an idea for a title of a podcast, that would be greatly appreciated. We're still kind of trying to come up with a name here. Devon is not here today or for this podcast. He's being a loser and he has to work and make money and make ends meet. So, yeah, he's a loser for that. He's an asshole.
Yeah, but you can afford food.
Yeah, I guess that's the main thing. As long as you can afford food and keep the wheels running. So, having said that Devon isn't here, I have a very, very special guest in the studio here today with me, or tonight with me. We're recording this at like 10:50, essentially 11 o'clock, just to give you guys a time stamp, I guess. And this guest that I have, let me try to introduce him to you guys. I mean, I'm sure he'll give you a little bit of a bio on who he is, but it's a very, very good friend of mine. His name is Nick. Hello, Nick.
Hey.
Former Navyman, former seaman, came out of the womb and just tore shit up.
Right.
Really good friend, like I said before. Crazy fucking beer pounder. We might even get into maybe possibly having Nick share one of his beer pounding stories, if that's the terminology we're using here, because he has some really good ones. So yeah, Nick, I mean, kind of for our listeners, kind of, if you can, kind of give us a rundown on who you are and what you like and what you don't like and what you absolutely hate and who you'd like to kill and whatnot. And yeah, I think people will be interested to hear.
Sure. Yeah, no. I guess we've already covered the military background. I served 5 years enlisted on board submarines in the U.S. Navy. And that was a lot of fun. Definitely wouldn't trade that for the world. Met a lot of cool people. Been to a lot of weird places, and that was that. Now, more of a college student, entrepreneur, doing that kind of thing, and it's a lot of ups and downs. But all in all, it's good. I guess things that I do like are all things that are good. I like beautiful faces and delicious foods. I like good weather. I like bad weather also. I'm really big into winter sports and things of that nature. Things that some people are kind of I don't really want to get out there and do that. Looks kind of crappy. Well, I'm out there hog wallering,
Yeah.
That's a technical term.
Hog wallering, folks.
I don't have a lot of things that I don't like. I'm not super proud of politics. I don't agree with taxation. My money's my money. Get your own.
Right. I think you have a lot of definitely a lot of listeners here that agree with that point for sure. Me included.
Yeah. I don't like IPAs. If we're going with the whole Nick's an alcoholic. Well, I don't really enjoy IPAs, but I will drink them.
Nick is not an alcoholic. All right. just so that doesn't become the main thing that everyone remembers Nick for. He's not an alcoholic.
Yeah.
He's a great person.
No, I like learning things. I like to be outside. Yeah.
Nick also hates, and if I can add to something that you hate, he also hates very stupid drivers or very slow turners on the road.
But I have like a magnet for them. Like,
yeah. Like, it seems like every time I'm riding with Nick, which is a lot of the time, actually, pause. It seems like the greasiest people in Greensboro are just at the same intersection or at the same freaking turning situation.
it's like I get like stuck driving all the blind people.
I'm legally blind.
Can't you see? Yeah, it's interesting, but yeah, no, that's me in a nutshell.
And that is a beer being opened.
Yeah, here we go.
For the folks that didn't see that. And we're actually also, another thing that we should kind of mention is we are currently only on an audio format, but in the near future, which means probably here in the next couple of weeks, we will be also, along with the audio the audio experience, we will be adding a video as well. So you guys
look forward to that, because I'm a pretty big guy. I'm gonna take up so much beauty space in the camera. I'm gonna be like
Nick
face.
will literally just take up the whole fucking camera. This guy is what, 6'5"?
Yeah,
like
6'5", 250, 260.
Yeah, he'll definitely truck someone for sure. Anytime, I always tell everyone this joke. It's like anytime I'm with Nick, I always feel very, very physically, emotionally, and psychologically secure. Like I have no worries or any kind of anxiety about being out in the public with this guy.
I keep it slow and steady.
Yeah. But, so there's Nick for you guys in a nutshell. I mean, also, we'll be finding a lot more out about me and Nick as we kind of dissect the topics that we want to cover today. And
we need to find out more about Devon.
We really do need to find out more about Devon. What is he doing? What is this mysterious Devon character doing?
Yeah.
Like, a job at an undisclosed location. I will not reveal that. I'll let Devon reveal that for you guys. But Devon is a character. We need to figure him out. So
we got some talking points today.
We do have some talking points, and we kind of ran through it a little bit as we were preparing for this podcast. We kind of wanted to get into essentially fame, right? Essentially artists in a situation where they are, and many people know them. Many people, they've been all around your, whether it be radio stations or maybe even on, Hollywood screens. And this kind of weird space of fame, right? Like, let's kind of dissect what fame really is, right? Like some of the talking points that we were kind of wanting to cover specifically is living within fame, living as a famous person, which we, by the way, know nothing about, but we still want to kind of get in the headspace. I feel like me and you, we've been around some pretty known people within their own kind of spheres.
I definitely have.
Yeah. And along with that, the topic of fame, we want to kind of also dabble in and kind of talk about artists that end up, whether they die early or have some kind of
external conflict.
External conflict. Yeah, that would be the perfect way of putting that. So Nick, I mean, I don't know kind of who specifically comes to your mind. I mean, I know, speaking of fame and unfortunately death, I mean, I have a couple of people that come to mind. I think before we get into that, we kind of need to talk about fame in general. Like, what do you, and this can involve even people like you said that you've kind of been around, observed. What is fame?
Well, fame in my book, I mean, and I'm not writing the book on fame, but if I had to define it, I would say you take what is a small fish in a big pond and put him in a small pond, and then you get what is a big fish in a small pond. If that makes any sense.
Yeah, flapping around.
But you're taking someone out of their like known reality, and you're putting them on this pedestal, and you're asking them to like deliver, you know, not necessarily on a night-to-night basis or a day-to-day basis, but a 24-hour basis, really, of what is this lifestyle. Like you're supposed to like, yeah, you go from having nothing to having everything you could want, and then there's like a balance you're supposed to have to where like you're able to enjoy your time and your life, and you lose that because you're always delivering on what gave you that ability in the first place. So fame, to me, Lady Gaga said it best. It's the fame monster.
The fame monster.
Yeah, it consumes you.
Yeah. I think it's very fascinating because I do have several friends that are, I mean, I'm not, talking like Beatles level or even Lady Gaga level for that matter, but like, people that are very successful in the things they do and that are very, known within that, specific niche. Specifically, I think in music, I have a lot of friends that do music and are pretty well known in those environments. Fame, I guess, how I would describe it is exactly how Nick described it. I mean, essentially, you're taking, to me, it doesn't even seem like a very natural thing. I know it's weird that I say that, but fame is an artificial creation to me. It's essentially taking a person that has lived their entire lives in a way where sometimes and a lot of time they weren't noticed as much for what they believed in or what they really loved, and then you're taking that person out of that context and throwing them into a situation where every single person around them idolizes them.
For something they don't even believe.
Yeah, for something they don't have. Yeah, exactly. They don't believe in. Everything that person is doing is now under a microscope. Everything that you do, all of the mistakes that regular people can make, that famous person makes, is amplified on a level that just we as people that definitely are not famous, kind of have to deal with. These huge media outlets talking about, oh, well, this person, ended up, I don't know, you got the, just to give you an example, the Justin Bieber situation where, you take essentially a kid. I mean, he was a kid. He was what, 22, 23, something like that.
But I mean, he was knee high when he started.
Yeah. And you take this, you take this character and he ends up, getting a DWI, and then all of these media outlets end up talking about how bad of a thing it is. And I'm not sitting here and saying DWIs are a good thing or anything like that. I'm just saying, if me or Nick were to be in that situation, no one would really care, except for, maybe...
No. The only people that are going to care are the people that have to, like, help you, like, get through it. Like,
yeah.
They're going to be like, this sucks. But then everybody else is going to be like, tough luck.
Yeah, tough luck, exactly. And then you have Justin Bieber, him getting in the DWI, and then you just have a whole freaking blow up by the media of how much of a shitty person he is and how much...
But honestly, though, like, I would say that thus far, Justin Bieber's been something of a success story when it comes to fame. Like, he hasn't seen some of the atrocities and like, controversies that other people that have like been in his shoes have seen.
Mm.
Um, I know that we've got like a small list of like people that come off the top of the block, and you could just take that off the top there.
Yeah, I mean, some of these people that we're going to mention, and not some, but all, have really seen the very kind of dark end of fame, and some of these people include the great artist, rapper. He even started dabbling in a little bit of R&B and started to expand his sound a lot throughout the later parts of his career up until his death. Mac Miller, and his unfortunate demise as a result of an overdose, and that really just complete. I know me along with other people, but I have had a very special relationship with Mac Miller because of the fact that that was like the artist that I grew up with, like that was my idol. We're sitting here and talking about how these people really influence and really just are the creme de la creme, like the
It's funny you say that you like grew up with him. I still remember the first time I heard Mac Miller. I was driving this like little Mercedes that I used to own. Around like Norfolk and Virginia Beach in that area, and I was playing around on it wasn't Spotify, but back then it was Slacker Radio, and I used to love my Slacker Radio. Anyway, but yeah, Blue Slide Park came on, and I was like, I don't know what the hell I'm listening to, but I love it.
Yeah, totally.
It was like just the right amount of like laid back, but also kind of edgy, and like yeah, but it puts you in like a cool like headspace to listen to. And then 10 years later, you hear about like some like horrific incident or whatever may have happened. You could touch more on that because like I didn't really follow him like you did. So
yeah, I mean, like I said, I essentially grew up with Mac Miller. I was really connected to him, especially the reason I say grew up with him is because I was literally growing up, and when I say grow up, I mean later teens, 18, 19, onwards, and that was when I feel like a huge wave of just internet fame started happening, especially with artists. And I feel like Mac Miller was definitely the torchbearer of that. He was kind of within that same class of, rappers and guys that were coming up off of the internet, especially the YouTube wave and phenomenon where, he had a bunch of really cool videos along with his music that really just boosted his whole rise to fame. And he was just everything. I mean, when you're a kid you need a role model, and especially living here in the States, our role models to me are supposed to be our I don't know, our father figures or maybe friends that we grew up with that are a little bit older than us. But because of the internet, we have an access to the fame, right? Like the big artists, whether they be like I was saying earlier, musicians or actors or whatever. And the person that I was following the most was Mac Miller. He was everything to me. That was it. That was my idol. And looking back on his career and even his transformation within music, because I was very, very tuned in to what he was doing. I mean, he went from Blue Slide Park, getting a 1 out of 10 on Pitchfork. Are you aware of what Pitchfork is, Nick?
It's like Rotten Tomato.
Yeah, kind of like Rotten Tomato in the music industry. Yeah,
dog everybody.
Yeah, man, and he ended up getting I remember him getting a 1 out of 10 for his Blue Slide Park album, the same album that you were listening to that you were so excited about.
I'd slap somebody in the mouth. That was at least a 7 out of 10.
That is profanity.
Yeah, y'all get out of here. Y'all are too harsh on somebody.
And well, that's the thing. That is the thing that we wanted to kind of dive a little bit more into, is the fact that one of the things that he specifically mentioned that led to his starting to dabble with drugs, especially I think he was talking about lean, that strong stuff, was that review from Pitchfork. You know, that was something that really, really put a sour taste in his mouth. Because again, you have this 19-year-old kid that's just trying to make good music, that's just trying to make some happy music and give the world a piece of what he's going through. And then,
so from all of like the harsh like I guess judgments, you're saying that he turned to drugs.
Yeah.
And went to lean.
Yeah, he went. Yeah, he went.
Lean's kind of like the. I mean, like, this is my opinion, so it doesn't mean anything. But lean to me is kind of like the rich kid, or like the upscale version of like Sherm. I don't know if you remember. What Sherm
I don't know. I don't know what Sherm is.
So Sherm back in the day, like anybody that was like anybody, and when I say that, I mean anybody that was nobody. What they would do is they would take like their cigarettes, there's like cigars, your Black and Milds, or your joints, blunts, what have you, and they would actually like they would line that with embalming fluid.
Really?
Yeah, and you smoke that, and it tears you up. Like,
have you tried it yourself?
You don't tell on yourself, but no, I'm not gonna say that.
So, whatever that means, you know, you can figure it out for yourself.
Long story short, that'll put you in a hole quick.
Yeah.
Embalming fluids for dead people.
Yeah, don't do that. Don't do it, kids. Don't do it, listeners. But
Sherm's the devil.
Sherm's the devil. And Mac Miller turned to lean. You know, that was his thing.
And so you got to explain lean.
So lean is essentially a concoction and a mixture of prescription cough syrup, which contains promethazine and codeine.
Codeine, like that was a big thing for me in high school. I loved codeine.
Yeah.
I hate to like sit here and ramble about that, but it wasn't often we got it. It was about 2 or 3 times a year we'd get it, because my best friend in high school, he had these younger siblings, and they were always sicker than shit. I don't know what it is, but like the younger ones in the family, there were 4 kids in the family. The younger 2, I don't know, maybe like the first 2 got like strong genes, and the other ones got the leftovers. But they were always going to the doctor for something, and they'd come back with these syrups, and they never did them. They never took care of the problem. They never like took their medicine. And well, me and my friend, we didn't mind doing it. And so we'd go to late PE class, and we all kinds of fucked up. We're just like, dodgeball.
Well, I mean, I don't know what it did for you, but I remember I myself, you know, have to admit that I was also dabbling in a little bit of, you know, lean myself, especially in high school. It was a way to it was just a euphoric feeling. I can't explain it. It was a euphoric feeling within a drowsy feeling, you know?
Yeah, you felt heavy, but very relaxed about it. You're like, it's cool.
Yeah, everything is just cool.
Yeah. And yeah, it takes away a lot of anxiety. So it kind of like makes sense that that's what something that someone in those shoes, someone who's under a lot of pressure, sees a lot of like judgmental eyes, a lot of like people telling you what you are, and they don't even know who you are. Why you would go to that kind of like resource for an escape? Not to rant or anything.
Yeah, I mean, you know, it's
like. Also to say that this is probably like the not healthiest like version of what you could do in those shoes.
Yeah, but I mean, again, talking about this whole fame thing, imagine specifically Mac Miller, imagine being just essentially thrust in a position where you're a 19, 18-year-old kid that has, and this is a fact, his album was the first album after Snoop Dogg by an independent artist to sell as many records as it did. So you're in the same boat as Snoop Dogg, you know, and you have a ton of people wanting to buy your stuff, you know.
I'm sure somebody had to bring that to light for him, because like if that's the case, like you gotta revere Snoop Dogg, understand like who that guy is and what he's done, and like what kind of like what kind of shitstorms he's been through and what he stands for. Like, I think you got to take that to heart. Be like, look, I did as good as this guy, and I got I got some weight under my belt now.
Yeah, but I mean, kind of touching on that whole, the toxicity within fame thing. I feel like after the fact of the bad review from Pitchfork and
What is the thing? Pitchfork's not going to fight you. I'll fight Pitchfork.
Yeah, I mean, we're just gonna, after this podcast, go over there to Pitchfork and talk some sense into him. But Nick being the sense.
How you doing? Pitchfork. Catch me outside.
Yeah, they're gonna get some hands. Kind of moving on into his next album, he released Making Music with the Sound Off, I believe, or something like that. Or no, excuse me, Watching Movies with the Sound Off was the second release, and that was just a 180 turn from Blue Slide Park. I don't know if you remember listening to it or if you have any experience.
No, but that title, like, I may have heard some stuff off of it because, like, I listen to stuff all over the spectrum. Yeah. But honestly, I've done that. I've actually watched movies with the sound off, and like this kind of like it's kind of like a bad lip reading kind of thing. Shout out to bad lip reading because like those guys are hilarious. Like, I love them. But yeah, you just sit there and you're like, all right, what is it that's going on? Let me make up something funny. See if I can't make everybody else in the room laugh. End of the day, they don't. Most of them stop laughing. They're like, you're an idiot. You're sitting here doing this, but we still love you. And I'm like, well, I appreciate that.
Well, I mean, we just have, two idiots in the room sitting and talking about nothing they know about, but we really appreciate all our listeners, and we're going to kind of take this time out to say that, we really appreciate whoever ends up, listening to this. Eventually this will be a live thing that we'll have hosted by a website as well, as the video format that I was telling you guys earlier about. So thank you guys for really tuning in and
giving us a shot.
Yeah, giving us a shot, running this thing up. Going back to the toxicity of fame and Mac Miller album number 2, Watching Movies with the Sound Off, you can really start, if you listen, I listened to the whole album straight through, you really, really can start to see this guy, Mac. You can start to hear him really, really try to uncover what the meaning of what he's seeing or what he's feeling is. You can hear him start to open up about the problems with drugs that he's having. There's really a different and just completely different tone about the music. A complete, like I said, 180 from what he was making when he was, he released his debut album, Blue Slide Park.
Gotta ask then, the transition from what I got out of like Blue Slide Park was a little more happy.
Yeah.
So are you telling me that the transition from one to the other, he was like kind of beaten, a little like tuck tail about it?
Yeah, he was very beaten, I'd say, and he was also, but there was a certain kind of introspection from that with him. He was starting to ask questions about religion. He was starting to ask questions about just existentialism.
In the music?
In the music, yeah. You could tell he was trying to figure it all out. You can tell he was trying to really, really give you a piece of him in the time that he was making it.
How many albums did he end up coming up with?
He came up with, so let's list them off for the listeners. We have debut being Blue Slide Park, album number 2 being Watching Movies with the Sound Off. Then, if I'm not mistaken, and people can correct me in the comment section below, he released Good AM. After Good AM, there was The Divine Feminine. And then after The Divine Feminine, there was his latest album, which he dropped and only really watched it, what it did to his listeners for about a couple months, because that's when he ended up passing away. He ended up leaving us. The album was called, his last album was called Swimming.
And so it's how many?
So that is in total, I believe, Blue Slide Park, Watching Movies with the Sound Off, Good AM, Divine Feminine, and Swimming. 5 albums.
That's a lot.
Yeah, it's a lot of music. And following him to the extent that I followed him, he was obsessed with making music. He just loved making music. That was what he really was fascinated by. That's what he did all the time. And he even had, I don't know if you saw, he had like a little reality show called The Most Dope Family, which was his like little clique of high school friends that he always ended up keeping around him. And it kind of gave everyone a peek into his life. He was really just in love with it. Even in the reality show, he was making music, and they were following him, and it was a good experience watching that reality series, and I suggest you guys check it out to remember Mac and to kind of see what he was up to, because he was a goof. He was also a goof. You saw a very, very happy and very jokester-esque kind of side of Mac Miller.
Which is something you see a lot of times in people like in those situations, like even if you are kind of in like a depressed kind of mentality, and like I can't help but think about like Robin Williams in this scenario, but like humor is a huge outlet.
Absolutely.
So like
I know in the military, you can talk about this. I know humor is also a huge outlet for.
God, yes, no, absolutely. Because like in my job frame, I'm like living underwater for months at a time. Like you don't have comedy shows to watch. You don't have phones to call your friends and family. If you're lucky, like once or twice a week, you'll get an email.
Yeah.
And like, I mean, emails are cool and all, but it's really just like
just a set of words. Yeah.
Just there to transfer data and like let you know what's going on. and in so like in most cases, that's enough to get you by. But what you really end up seeing is a lot of like dark and sick humor and like people just trying to make the best out of a bad situation. And I'm not saying that like fame is a bad situation, but it definitely seems like there needs to be some form of moderation with it in order to maintain like a healthy mentality and a healthy lifestyle.
Yeah, I agree. I think fame is, like I mentioned earlier, it's a very unnatural way of being. I mean, it's we as human beings aren't really used to it. I mean, look at our history, right? Like we never had this opportunity. We never even knew what this thing was until the internet came about. I mean, sure, of course you have big artists making music in the 70s, 80s, 90s, but that 90s was, correct me if I'm wrong, about the time the internet came out. Was it 95, 97, something like that?
I mean, it was like a big thing with like AOL and stuff like that, like late 90s.
Yeah.
And like that's when you get like those, like you leave your computer on all night and you get that late night, like, a little booty call. What's that?
The booty calls.
Yeah. And that's like way before like the I think like the first thing that came up was like the BRB, the Be Right Back.
Yep.
And that's when you knew you were left on red. Sucked.
Yeah. Back in the good old days.
But all right, so take us a little deeper with Mac Miller real quick. Like, what was his ultimate undoing? Like, how did it go down?
So it was very, very weird, and a lot of fans were freaked out about it. He, I think it was 2 years, or maybe it was a year and a half before he passed away. He actually, I think it was Vice that covered it. I am not completely sure who released it, but anyhow, there was a documentary that was released on Mac Miller's, covering Mac Miller, and essentially the focus of the whole documentary was about his drug problems. And I think the biggest line that came out of that was like, I don't want to be a person remembered for, my drug habits. I don't want to, that's not the thing that I want people to think about when they listen to my music or when they even hear my name. And it was very scary. It was very scary how that ended up ultimately being the thing that ended up getting him.
It's a little bit of foreshadowing.
Yeah, a lot of foreshadowing. Even when you dissect certain lines within his last 2 albums, maybe even 3, and a lot of his earlier work, he was always mentioning the constant, if I die, this, or you know what I mean. A lot of those kind of lines. And I know a lot of artists, and we as humans even kind of, talk about it with, or maybe even think about it, like, what if I died? Like, would there be anyone that necessarily remembers me, or how will life just continue going and I'll be forgotten in the midst of time? Or like, it starts getting into like a lot of abstract kind of
Abstract philosophies.
Yeah, absolutely. And specifically focusing on Mac's situation. He ended up passing away because of an accidental drug overdose, which is what the autopsy revealed. And it was exactly a year after his death. There actually was a police report that ended up being released that showed the exact text messages that Mac Miller was having with his, I'm assuming, like alleged drug dealer. And they ended up, tapping the drug dealer's phone and figuring out that he was actually he was fully aware of what he was giving Mac Miller, and he obviously, you never know how much of something is going to end up, killing a person, or what that person is going to mix those specific substances with. You don't know if this person's going to take your drug and then mix it with something else. So it's like it was just a very messy kind of situation. But I think the underlying point that we're kind of trying to get into is just the fact that, why was he doing them in the first place? I mean, we can sit here and talk about, oh, it was accidental and it wasn't it was, all about the fact that it was an accidental thing and he didn't really, that was the biggest thing. But it's not. I mean, the fact that a person is doing drugs, to me, says something. And they're that person. I mean, I can speak for myself here. I had issues and my run-ins with substance abuse, and I know that I was doing those drugs only to escape from reality. I didn't want to live within my own headspace. I was completely insecure. I cared too much about what, and I'm not in any way attaching this to Mac Miller. Only, talking about myself here is, it was more of a escape, of things that I was feeling and I was experiencing. Maybe a little bit of trying to find myself within all this. So, yeah, I mean, I don't know if you've had your own struggles with, certain drugs, or, but I can, that's the stuff that I know about, the Mac Miller case that, again, unfortunately ended up leading to his early death. And, I know a lot of other people in the last couple of years have ended up being in the same very unfortunate predicament of overdosing and end up leaving us early. We have an artist like Lil Peep.
Was he before or after?
He was before Mac Miller. Yeah, he was before Mac.
And he
Miller.
was a big SoundCloud guy, right?
He was the SoundCloud guy. Yeah, like he was definitely he was like the guy that was keeping SoundCloud like a thing. Like him and you have artists like
Chance the Rapper ended up like purchasing that, right? Like the entire rights to SoundCloud.
See, I don't know.
And I think that's how that happened. I could be wrong, but I think it's like SoundCloud was like, if, and this is like borderline stipulation, but this is grapevine dog. But yeah, like SoundCloud was going down and out, and Chance the Rapper came through, purchased it, and it's alive and well today because of that man.
So shout out to Chance the Rapper.
Yeah, he saved an entire demographic, really.
Yeah, I remember I still use SoundCloud to this day to, and this is something that I haven't mentioned in the podcast, nor do I want to really focus on, because I think that we should respect the people more so and focus on them more so than I. But I used SoundCloud to release my music and still do to this day. So
SoundCloud's the only place I can go to actually listen to our buddy Renan.
Yeah,
like, because I mean, I will listen to his stuff, but it's not anywhere else.
Spotify.
It was.
It was on Spotify.
I don't think it's there anymore.
Yeah. Renan is a
beautiful individual.
Beautiful individual. That ends up, if you strictly know him on an internet platform, it ends up being a let me put something on here and then take it off kind of guy.
Yeah, he's like, he'll tease you real good and then take it all away. I love you son of a bitch.
Yeah, we love you, Renan.
My little babushka.
So yeah, I mean, like we kind of talked about, Lil Peep was another artist that ended up,
what got him?
The same thing.
I mean, what was that thing though that actually like what was the overdose?
So you use the specific drugs.
Yeah.
So I believe he had a very large collection of everything in him. He had alcohol from the previous day. He had cocaine. He had I'm not sure whether it was Xanax, but pill.
So it was more or less a smorgasbord. He was playing a very dangerous game.
Yeah.
It's really not a game.
Yeah, it's not a game that you want to play for sure, and we find that to be. I mean, I'm going to use this word a lot more. An unfortunate reality of current circumstances. We have a lot of people doing.
You want to try my sour beer?
Oh, absolutely. Nick has just cracked open another sour beer. I think we should give him a shout out if they don't mind.
Shout out to Prairie Artisan Ales. We're over here. I'm over here throwing back these. What is that? Karate Chimp.
Yeah.
Karate Chimp.
That's actually pretty good. What is that?
It's a sour ale of apricot, mango, and tangerine. 5.4% alcohol by volume. Comes in these cute little, like, cross between like an LSD hippie trip monkey karate dojo kind of situation.
That is very, very nice kind of the graphic design there.
Yeah, they really put in some work on this. Whoever they got doing their illustrations, I guess it's an illustration.
Yeah. Designs.
Bravo Zulu, dog.
Yeah.
Knocking it out the park.
I'm being over here basic drinking a Bud Light, but
like lime, man.
Lime. So I had to, be a little bit on the bougier side.
Church it up some.
Yeah, exactly, on the fancy side here. Another couple of artists that we wanted to definitely mention was, of course, the great Kurt Cobain. And I've been talking a little bit longer than I'd like to be. I kind of want Nick to have a lot of input on Kurt, because honestly, I do know the impact that he's had on the just in general the whole world, but specifically the music industry.
So Kurt was like a 90s rock guy, kind of like doing like the grunge thing. Kind of like the more or less the poster child for rebellion of the mid 90s. And I would say that most people probably agree he's a huge influence on a lot of our rap artists, a ton of our rock artists.
There's a fascination almost.
Yeah, just like hell yeah attitude. We don't have to do what we're supposed to do just because people tell us we're supposed to do it, kind of thing.
Absolutely.
That could be anything from showering to working a job to going to school on time, kind of thing. Yeah, but
please shower, folks. That's a
be courteous to others and wash your butt. I'm always an advocate for butt washing and brushing your teeth.
Make sure your booty don't stink.
Yeah, I can't tell you how many people I've like just cut off from like socializing with because they don't brush their teeth.
That's just a common courtesy, like my friend here said.
If you don't care about yourself, care about everyone else, because we've got to do it with you. Anyway, but yeah, so Kurt Cobain, like, man, he put out like so much good music, and I'm not gonna pretend like I know it all because I don't. I was a kid when I was listening to it. He was dead by the time I was aware of him. But from that, we got Dave Grohl, who like once Kurt Cobain passed away, he left Nirvana to pursue his own endeavors in music, and we got all kinds of cool stuff out of him. And it's in no small part because of what Kurt Cobain established in the name of Nirvana. And yeah, Kurt Cobain like definitely played with his fair share of drugs. He was all over the place. I think his big thing for a while was cocaine, and eventually he shifted gears from being on the high drugs to the low balling drugs like heroin, where like you're looking for more of a sedation. He ended up marrying this. I'm gonna call her a crazy lady because she's kind of portrayed as a crazy lady. I'm trying to remember her name. It was Love Hewitt or something like that. Jennifer Love Hewitt. No, not Jennifer Love Hewitt. That poor girl. I don't want to bash her name.
Well, I remember personally, definitely, while kind of researching a little bit about Kurt Cobain, figuring out that they ended up having a kid together, right?
Yeah, it was Courtney Love. That's who it was. And I want to say it was like 1992 they got married. And let's see. They did have a daughter, and her name was Frances. If I'm saying it, I don't know how to speak. I'm not good at English.
Nah, that's fine. I mean.
Anyway, yeah. So they did have a daughter, and then it was just one night out of the blue. He had ingested or been given enough drugs to kill him. Just like it was enough to probably kill a horse, honestly. Enough heroin to sedate a full-grown gorilla.
Yikes!
And then allegedly he shot himself with a shotgun, and he was found dead on the floor the next day. But then there's also like the theory that someone, not to say it was Courtney Love, but someone gave him the drugs, like administered the drugs to him, and then kept administering drugs to him, and then shot him.
Oh, yeah.
And then staged it to look like a suicide.
Yeah, that starts getting a little in the murky waters there.
Yeah, it's very alleged territory. But, yeah, so that's Kurt Cobain in a nutshell. And, yeah, it's the same evil. It's the same fame monster, as we called it earlier. Thank you, Lady Gaga.
Yeah, this fame monster is
it's real, and for any upcoming artist out there, beware.
Yeah, I mean, really, just kind of a lot of the time, a bunch of these, younger aspiring artists and actors and all kinds of different creators of any facet come into fame or wanting fame or even recognition for the things they do because of really just wanting to be recognized. They're not thinking about how it's going to affect them, and they're not thinking about the plan, the different kind of consequences that fame has on an individual. They're not thinking about how people will start to perceive them because of their recognition and because of their money and all of the different things that come with it, fame. And that, then by the time they know it, they end up waking up from this kind of slumber, this kind of, because, the first year of fame and this is what I've heard from, friends and certain artists that have talked about this and opened up about this throughout interviews is, that first year of fame, that first year and a half, or, that first initial kind of taste in the world, everything is new and everything is fascinating. And you're not necessarily even considering what it is doing in order to change you as a person, what it is doing to change your pattern of thinking in relations to the people around you. And once you hit that, there's certain things that happen in famous people's lives that end up snapping them out of it, and then they end up really thinking about, okay, well, the things that I used to be happy about, I'm not necessarily happy about anymore. That first time that I played a show in front of 5,000 people, I mean, it's not the same feeling. Or that first time that I signed an autograph, that's not the same feeling. Or that first time that I, even recorded a record and saw it do numbers, and whether it be, hot, what is it, 100 records on Billboard, or
you call that chasing the dragon.
Yeah.
It's like chasing a high.
Yeah.
And you have to realize that eventually it's not going to mean anything.
Yeah. We as people, I mean, and we can even relate this to ourselves, not being famous. I mean, remember that first time I don't know, whether you're a sports person or, that first time, I don't know, you threw a touchdown, or, that first time that
For me, first times, like the first thing that I like really think about ever meaning something to me was when I graduated from being like completely resigned to only taking baths like in the tub.
Yeah.
To where I was a young adult. I was like, like 10 years old, 11 years old, and like my folks were like, "Yo, we're done seeing you naked, boy." And I was like, "Okay, that's fair. What do I do now?" Like, it's called a shower. And I fell in love with the shower, but then I got like, bigger, is like, puberty and stuff like set in.
Yeah.
And now like a normal shower means nothing to me. I'm like,
this is just something I gotta do.
Now I really look forward to like when I go on like vacations, or I leave the state and I go to like, this fancy Airbnb, or like one of my like more like rich friends. They have like these like amazing showers, like the waterfall and and like the stone layouts, and like I can really like go like full spread eagle with my arms and just like, ooh, shower time.
Do the dance.
Yeah, like I love that, and it's like a high, and I'm always chasing a better shower, and that's kind of just a metaphor for like I'm always looking for another high.
Yeah, and that that ties right back into the even we can tie it back into the drug thing. It's the same kind of concept. You get high for the first time on whatever substance you end up getting hooked on. And you hit that first high, and you're just so fascinated by, and just that feeling of goodness, that feeling of just complete euphoria, that you're just like, oh my God, I've never felt this before. This is incredible. I mean, maybe if I do a little bit more of it, I'll feel a little bit better, and that just turns into a big snowball. That, and again, something that Nick mentioned, it's just it's a game that not necessarily is the right game to play. It's a very dangerous game to play. So having talked about a lot of depressing shit in the last 15 minutes, let's talk about more depressing shit. I think we should.
Are we going for the bonus round?
Well, you know what? Let's hold off on the bonus round. All right, because I feel like we've talked about enough depressing shit, and I just want to, again, take this time to kind of remember the artists that we've lost in the last couple of years, and even artists that we've lost into the history of time, that we've talked about and that we haven't talked about. And let's learn from these experiences. Let's take the good and positive things that these artists try to push through their music and through whatever kind of things they were doing outside of music and artistry, promoting a healthy way of life, promoting happiness in the form of a natural happiness, and run with that. Let's talk about our last kind of point that we kind of wanted to cover throughout the podcast, and I think it would be a perfect time to kind of start dabbling in the term industry plants. What does this term mean? This mysterious term, industry plants. Industry plants.
Not organic.
Not organic. Not organic. Thus the word industry. This is, I think, the definition for me of an industry plant would be someone that has been bred or grew. Would that be the proper terminology for that?
I would say they have been cultivated.
Cultivate.
Yeah, like you take someone and you manipulate everything that they are into something that didn't exist. Like better term for it, you basically build. It's like Build-A-Bear, but for like a form of like artist.
Yeah, totally. So industry plant would be, to me, someone that you've never heard about. Never. No one's ever talked about. No interviews. Nothing. Just come out of the
mist.
Thin freaking
air. That's the next word.
Yeah. And just have a really nice video, or maybe be featured on a really well-known podcast, or not podcast.
That works.
Podcast, the word I was thinking of was like, I don't know, like a compilation on like a Spotify list, or something
just
like that.
Drop them in.
Just drop them in there. Just people that come out of nowhere. Artists that just pop out of the thin air, and you're just like, how the hell did you get on here?
It's like imagine you live in like the late 1800s, and then one day somebody's like, indoor plumbing. What the
mind blowing?
What the hell is that?
You're gonna have to dissect that one for me.
No more pooping in the bucket. That's what that is.
Boom! Just complete mind blowing. Just like, what the hell?
It's like a microwave dinner in like the 70s.
Yeah,
80s.
The 70s. Yeah, exactly.
It's like super convenient and ready to go, and you're just like, wow. This thing that sucks about that is like, there's no real like character arc. There's no like individual development. It's just full bore. Like, it's like you get your license, and the next day Formula One shows up to your door, and they're like, "You ready to go race?" Like, no, homie.
I haven't even freaking driven the lap around the track yet.
Like I thought I was like gonna hop in the station wagon that my dad passed down to me, and that's that. But no, like basically it is a fully provisioned artist that is established by record labels and management companies.
Yeah. That is essentially what that term is, and we see a lot of it. Just because now it's very easy to create. It's very easy to, take this random, producer or artist or whatever that's not known to anyone at all, and
you throw them to a bunch of different co-writers.
Yeah, throw them to a bunch of co-writers and get a couple of Kanye's or featured artists. Huge featured artists on a record, and try to push that person. It's a weird thing that we just now are starting to kind of categorize that term in general
and wake up to.
Yeah. The internet is a place of that. I think industry plants, not only in the music industry, can be found in all kinds of different. You can't even call them ecosystems, right? They'd have to be like internet spheres. Things that come out of the thin air. So I don't know. I think it's definitely important to mention this point about industry plans because it gives us an understanding in how
It gives you a look behind the veil.
it gives you a look behind the veil.
Shows you that like not all of this is like naturally aspirated, organic happenings. These aren't like artists that have actually worked for this. These are people that really they're just here to make money off of you.
Yeah, yeah, and it's I think the bigger picture when we analyze it is just another kind of function of the internet. Really, I mean, we as human beings live within this space. This stuff can't be fabricated in real life. This stuff can't be fabricated in a real life scenario. You know,
I think something we want to touch on later on, talking about like how things can't be fabricated in like reality, is like the crazy theory that all of this is a giant simulation and
Yeah.
that nothing is real.
yeah,
That it's a mind blowing like concept. Like definitely, it's dangerous to try to even play with that right now. It's not a time, but I want to talk about that later.
yeah. That is definitely something that we'll cover in later episodes of this podcast for sure. I don't know. What do you think, Nick? I mean, we kind of covered all the points that we wanted to get into. I mean, do you have anything else that comes to mind, whether it be through the points that we've already talked about, or maybe a new point that you want to bring up?
Not really a new point. I think just something to take to heart with this is that it's really important to know how to like love yourself in a healthy manner and look out for your own well-being and think of like your own longevity and your own vitality, your own mortality, and like understand that like we all have an expiration date, and there's no point to make it any sooner than it need be.
Yeah, absolutely. I 100% agree with that statement, and I think that was, whether it be subconsciously or consciously, as we were preparing for this thing, that we wanted to push and give you guys just that message of,
Love yourself.
Yeah.
And love those around you.
really. I mean, that's what it comes down to. I mean, that's all we got. You know, that's all we got. I mean, the cliche term, love is all we got. I mean, it's true. I mean, be happy as well. Be happy with what you got, and take it slow. You know, it doesn't have to be a race. You know, it's anyone that's doing anything, whether you're a college student or a high school kid or
It's a race, but it's a marathon.
yeah, you
Not a
gotta
sprint.
you gotta you know, pace yourself. You know, whether you're flipping burgers or you're a banker up in or an investor up in Wall Street or a hedge fund kid or
We should get some burgers.
yeah, we really should get some burgers. I'm feeling burgers tonight. Just be happy with what you got, and it's harder said than done. Obviously, you know, you got a lot of things going on and around you, and you know, a lot of desires that are created on a secondly basis. But just take that, you know, pause, take those 5 minutes and really be introspective and thankful. Oh, I got all my limbs. Oh, I got.
And after that, like also, if you need help, look for it, seek it out, ask for it. There's somebody out there for everybody, and they're more than willing to help.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And with that, we want to close up the podcast, man. I really appreciate you, Nick, for having me in this space, in this studio, and coming on here and kind of sharing how you feel about certain topics that we discussed, and giving the listeners something to think about.
Drink good beer.
Drink good beer.
Bud Light Lime's not gonna cut it next time.
Yeah, I'm sorry, guys. I'll definitely class it up a little bit next time around.
And I think some topics we might touch in the future, we're looking at like serial murders.
Yep.
Like different forms of like philosophy, stuff like that. Some kind of like oddball, very interesting, cool topics.
Yeah. So be excited for it, guys, because we will definitely bring it to you right here on this podcast. Like I said, we are working on many different ways of making this podcast a better environment in order to listen to it and just experience it.
We're gonna get some video.
Yep.
We're gonna get some actual microphones.
Yep.
Maybe some cozy chairs.
Yep.
Good beers.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe we'll graduate from eating just duck donuts. I love you, duck donuts, but you are not cutting it like primarily as like a source of sustenance. Like
Yep.
I do love it. It's a delicious treat.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I look forward to being back.
Yeah. Well, we'll see you guys on the next one. And thank you all once again for really listening and giving us a chance, and see you in the next one.
See you.